All right, so today we're going to be reacting to The Rock Doesn't Have Abs. You've probably seen this clip before. It's been circulating around on the internet quite a lot, but I wanted to give my reaction on it. So firstly, let's go ahead and take a look at the clip. Now, this was part of a 10-minute segment with an actress called Emily Blunt, who weirdly enough is married to John Krasinski, who's Jim from The Office. Bit of trivia for you there. I didn't realize that because I had to actually look up who this woman was because I only initially saw the first segment. And some of the stuff she was saying, I thought, bitch, but actually, she's quite funny and she's an actress. And they were doing a skit. I would recommend watching the whole 10 minutes because it's actually quite funny. They ask questions about each other. So, this is the clip.
Can Dwayne Johnson sing? No, he cannot. What is the deal with The Rock's flabby tummy? What is the deal with The Rock's ass?
What's wrong with
The Rock's ass? So, what's that?
I love the reaction there. It's like, that's so fucked up. So his initial reaction is very honest. So I love that. I don't know. Maybe it's honest. Maybe it's kind of scripted. Who knows? Maybe he's seen the questions before. Maybe it's something he's wanted to address for a while. I think it came across like a very, very genuine reaction. And I imagine it probably would be, you know, I don't know. I guess that's kind of what I would say as well. But let's watch the rest of it and then we'll talk about it.
What is wrong with them?
There's nothing wrong with it. No, here's the thing.
Oh, God.
I think because on Instagram, all these Instagram fitness models have these incredible 6, 8, 12, 24 pack
You have a
stomachs.
six-pack?
No, I got like a 5.5 pack.
Okay.
Sometimes a 4.5 pack.
Okay.
The problem was, which a lot of people don't know, I tore in a wrestling match. I tore the top of my quad off my pelvis. Went bang.
All right. So basically, he goes on to explain that he tore his some of his like midsection region. He had to have it operated on. It was part of a wrestling match. It was a real tear. If you can go ahead and have a look at that footage, and apparently, if you watched it live, they had to delay things for ages while he was getting fixed up and getting taken out of there and all that kind of stuff. It's genuine. I mean, I did actually see videos of The Rock prior to that, and for all you guys who grew up watching The Rock in 2000s, you knew he was in great shape, but he never really had abs, so I don't know. But in any case, I guess what I wanted to talk about was, firstly, I thought what this clip was really nice was it showed a guy who's actually quite comfortable in himself, and to allow himself, and firstly to allow that to be filmed, because a guy like The Rock, you know, he's probably got things fairly well scripted. So while I'm sure the reaction was genuine and honest, like he probably had a fair amount of control over which parts of that was going to be filmed and not, based on his image. And so I think it was quite nice he allowed himself to show his vulnerabilities, because Rock, by all accounts, Rock is a guy who is like the perfect guy. You know, he's like 7'5" or something like that. He's rich, he can act, he's got a great sense of humor, and yeah, because he's kind, he's a family man, all that kind of stuff. So by all accounts, like the guy is perfect. But he allows himself to show off some of his vulnerabilities in a very, very personal way. And they're not fake vulnerabilities either. Like everyone has asked about The Rock's abs at some point. There's been videos done by More Plates, More Dates. So it's not like it's a false thing. You know, it's not like somebody saying, "Oh, I'm so fat today," and they're shredded. You know, it's a real thing. Yeah. So he's got some vulnerability there, and he allows himself to show that off in camera. And I think that's okay. It's part of this whole men being allowed to show their emotions kind of thing. You know, he is, you know, the alpha of alphas out there in Hollywood. So for him to do that, I think it's actually quite nice. It's quite encouraging. I think it shows off your imperfections in a way which isn't like cringe, but in a genuine way. So I quite like that. I think when people go over the top and trying to show off their imperfections, and you see it so much on TikTok, like, "Oh, I look terrible today," and they've just, you know, they're absolutely gorgeous 10 out of 10 people. I think this is actually a very real, specific thing. And I think that is kind of nice in the sense that it sort of tells us all, or maybe I can just relate to it more. I don't know. Maybe it tells us all that, okay, we've got imperfections, we're okay. And I kind of get where he comes from with that as well, because I have a very similar problem. And I don't know whether it's because I got into bodybuilding later in life, but my abs were never massively defined, and they're probably like the last place to get defined. So when I was getting ready for my show a few years ago, my glutes were coming in before my abs. It's really weird. And I still get it now. I can get ridiculously lean around my body. I mean, you saw a few months ago some footage on my Instagram where I was like crazy lean, and you know, veins everywhere, all that kind of stuff. But even then, the abs still weren't quite dialed in. And so yeah, I don't know. It's just an age thing. So, and I can only imagine that The Rock being in the public eye so much, he gets so much of that. I mean, just to kind of give you a little bit of story for here. When I first started doing Instagram, this was way before I got into YouTube. This was a few years back. I would get recognized every now and again, like from people in my hometown. Like I don't have a big Instagram at all, but I would get recognized just from because I was trying to put out decent content, trying to help people. Been doing that for a few years, initially just on Instagram. And so I remember specifically there was a guy at the local gym who just kind of kept staring at me for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I wasn't really used to this whole thing by then, right? So I wasn't really used to people recognizing me. And so by the end of the third week, I was ready to throw hands. I was like, what's this guy staring at? I was ready to like go, hey, yo, what's your problem kind of thing. And he came up to me on the third week and he said, hey, I've been checking out your stuff on Instagram. I really like it. And I was like, wow, okay, completely deflated. It's like, okay, put your hands down. But I can only imagine for a guy like The Rock, the amount of attention he gets, both negative and positive, is just insane. And like I know that as well. Like nowadays, I get that more so because now I'm sort of a little bit more active on Instagram, a little bit more active on YouTube as well. But like just randomly, you'll get guys at the gym like sizing you up and basically trying to sort of say, hey, I'm bigger than him, lift more than him. I mean, I've literally had 20-year-olds trying to size me up, and I'm like, bro, I'm literally twice your age. So I don't know. It's a weird thing when you put yourself. What I'm saying is, when you put yourself out there, like just in a gym in a regular public setting, there's a certain amount of interaction and negativity you'll get because of people's insecurities. But when you're popular like The Rock, I imagine that is just an insane amount. So he probably gets so much negativity. These questions about his abs probably come up all the time. So I think it's probably quite sensible to address it in a light-hearted, comedic way, in which he has. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And to speak on the other point a little bit, this whole idea of like male vulnerability and allowing yourself to be a little bit emotional and allowing yourself to let your emotions sort of out, I think it's quite important and it's quite healthy because it doesn't really get viewed quite in the same way. And I'm not trying to compare it to female vulnerability. I'm just talking about male vulnerability because I'm a guy. That's all I really know, or I can speak on personally. But like I spent a large part of my life not doing that, and I'm much more likely now to just say, hey, you know what? I don't feel quite right about this or whatever, rather than just try and act like the strong guy and tough guy and sort of tough it out. So I think it's important. And if we are trying to encourage men to speak more about what bothers them, speak more about their mental health, then I think it's encouraging to have role models like The Rock, who, I mean, God bless the guy. He's been a role model for so many things over the years. And now, as he's older, he's leading the way in terms of actually expressing your insecurities over things, your imperfections. And I think that's another thing which is pretty awesome. But yeah, it's one of those where I think we all have things that we're insecure about, like everyone does. And for somebody to just point it out and go, bah, I don't think they realize just how devastatingly bad it can be. So to have people who are role models to be able to point those things out and actually laugh and joke about them. And I think it helps to normalize the imperfections, but two, it helps to highlight what a dickhead move it is to point out somebody's insecurity, like right there and then. I think that's a really like dickheadish move. And I think we should all be a little bit more sensitive about that with other people rather than just blurting stuff out and go, bleh. Because it just makes people feel horrible, and then there's a negative backlash. And I think a lot of times, a lot of this, people just say, yeah, well, you should just toughen up. It's like, well, you know what? Some things do bother you, and that's the way it is. And some things are going to affect you. And yeah, you could argue, okay, try not to let things affect you, but we're not all machines. We're not all robots. So I think people will be better off with a certain amount of acceptance of who they are, of course, but also other people should probably try not to be dicks. And I think that's more than likely where I would sort of hang my hat on that. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool little interaction with him and this Emily Blunt person. And yeah, I think it was a nice video to subtly talk about male vulnerability and imperfections and body dysmorphia and stuff like that without turning into a big talk like I've done over the last 10 minutes about body dysmorphia and imperfections and stuff like that. I thought it was a nice, in the way that The Rock does, it's a nice humorous way to address what is a relatively serious topic. Anyway, let me know what you think, because I really enjoyed that. I think coming as a guy who, you know, we all have our own sort of insecurities, imperfections, all that kind of stuff. Coming from a guy like myself, like that, I thought it was quite interesting and it was quite reassuring. So I wanted to talk about it. So hopefully you found it interesting, and I'll speak to you guys next time.